Port Gelhorn is the second large city of GTA 6. With Trailer 2, Rockstar gave us so much context and more info about the city, in addition to the stuff we had from the leaks and Trailer 1. And the website and screenshots give us so much info about the city. So I'm gonna go through every single bit of information we have about the city. And there's so much to talk about as things have been moved from around Florida into Port Gelhorn. My name is Saukko, and I'm part of the GTA 6 mapping community. I have helped in making the Dubsos community map by seeking information from the game and real life. So I'm actually one of the few people who can know everything about the game that we know so far. So let's start with the simple stuff and then move on to the leaks and the more complicated stuff. And more specifically, let's start with the description in the Rockstar website. So here in the subheader, they say that Port Gelhorn is the forgotten coast of Leonida. In real life, the area called the Forgotten Coast of Florida is located here east of Panama City. So the description pulls inspiration from this area, even though Port Gelhorn itself is not based on the area. Apart from the St. Joseph Marina, which we had an event for in the leaks. But west of the unbounded coast of Florida, there is Panama City, which has been a great inspiration for a part of Port Gelhorn, but more about that later. Then the description itself. Cheap motels, shutdown attractions, empty strip malls won't bring the tourists back. This description fits Panama City well, as their tourism has been in decline. However, it's not that drastic as described here by Rockstar. And Panama City Beach is still a popular holiday and spring break attraction. And there were several mentions of shutdown attractions in the leaks. But there's a new economy in this once popular vacation spot. It's fueled by malt liquor, painkillers, and truck stop energy drinks. Jump on a dirt bike and hold onto your wallet. I'm still not sure what this means, but most likely this description is referring to drug running or smash and dash robbing. All of these substances are things that can be used to enhance illicit activities by reducing stress and pain while committing acts of crime. Holding onto a wallet is probably what the victims need to do if this is about smash and dash robberies. I myself lean more into the drug running theory. So now we have a good tone for the city. Much more gritty and dark than Vice City and other areas of Leonida. Then this is the current map for Port Gelhorn, and it's located here on the community mapping project. This square is actually so accurate because we had a top-down view of the area, so we had a satellite image of it in the leaks. However, I'm not gonna show it because YouTube and Rockstar will touch me if I show it on YouTube. So, no leaks here. Up here, this small area is from the infamous Hank's Waffles leak, in which Lucia and Jason rob a waffle house or a waffle restaurant. And here is some of the areas we can see all the way from the waffle robbery area. And now that we have this postcard, we can see them from another angle. And here on the right, we have the Port Gelhorn motel. And Port Gelhorn itself is surrounded mostly by hills and mountains. And of course the sea to the west. The area we've seen of Port Gelhorn is mostly based on Panama City of Florida. Additionally, there are structures and locations from across Florida. For example, from Gainesville, Tampa, near Fort Myers, and stuff even close to Jacksonville. But the main inspiration of this area of Port Gelhorn is Panama City. Here is a part of Fidoluma's map, which shows all the in-game locations in real life. We can see that most of the buildings here are from along US Highway 98, and one location in Lynnhaven, and a few at Panama City Beach. This of course doesn't mean these are all of the buildings from Panama City, because we haven't seen all of Port Gelhorn. So there will most likely be a part of Port Gelhorn that is mostly based on Panama City Beach, but we just haven't seen that part yet. Let's just start going through the map from south to north, and more specifically, let's start from a bit of the east side. So in the leak we can see that this area has elevation. So there's an uphill towards the east, and the west side is lower down. And we have an elevation for this motel, which is up 40 meters from sea level. So there's a steep hill just east of Port Gelhorn. And these roads have some kind of bridges on them. So we think this road is kind of in a canyon, so both sides of it have hills, and then it snakes all the way up to the motel. Here on the left we have the Port Gelhorn International Raceway, of which name we can see in one of Lucia's shirts. It's based on the real Sebring International Raceway, which is known for hosting the 12 hours of Sebring endurance race. And it's a FIA Grade 2 track, so it's a proper racetrack. In the leagues we can see actual curbs and runoff area, so it's a proper racetrack. It's not an exact copy of Sebring though, either because the scouters didn't know what they were looking at, or they have taken inspiration from other tracks. But anyways, the pit building of Sebring Raceway is located here. We can even see these fuel pumps in the leaks, and even this white building is identical. One interesting thing I have to say about the track is that it seems like they have made the track thinner from around this straight, because in real life this straight is on an old airfield, but in game it seems like it isn't. So it's completely possible that Rockstar just removed the airfield / airport and just left the track part of the area, thus leaving the straight here thinner. Also, it seems like there are these fake roads on the AI World Editor map, so they have been used as a template but not necessarily added to the game. However, some of them have been added to the Dubsos map, even though they probably aren't there in the game. So some of these roads like this or this might not be in the game. And this building is the Wayne County Motorsports building in real life. And if I had to guess, they have made it the main building of the PORT GELLHORN International Raceway. Then we move a bit up, as here, right next to the racetrack, there is a track strip based on the Gainesville Raceway. Again, the Dubsos map doesn't do complete justice for the area. We can see an actual copy of the area, just mirrored in the leaks, with all the same buildings and all the same rows and even same colors. But this is the main drag strip, this is the feeder road into the drag strip, these are the grandstands, and the main or paddock building should be here. Additionally, in between the Sebring Raceway and Gainesville Raceway, we can see a parking lot, which is a copy of one of the parking lots in Gainesville Raceway. And then the last thing I'm gonna say about the raceway. This road that goes over at the I-404 is weird, and we are not sure if it's real, as it connects directly to the racetrack and actually leads nowhere. It seems like a strange addition, but it might be explained by some of the elevation that we don't see, as it seems that there might be some elevation change in the area from the leaks we see, but that's not displayed on the Dubsos map. Then we move on to this gas station. This gas station has a food mart, a thrift store, and a third store of some kind. Also, our first on-the-ground leaks take place here. From these leaks, we can see a large part of the southern PORT GELLHORN area, as we look from the gas station towards north, towards a downhill which turns into an uphill, which peaks at the church here. We can also see the Parker Government Center and this interchange in its entirety. We can also see a bunch of signs and billboards and other buildings which have helped us map the map very much. Additionally, there's a one leak here in which Lucia fiddles with the door and looks at the ground, so it's kinda useless, but we can see a bit of the store. For example, we can see a Sprunk ad, some E-Cola bottles which have much more polygons than GTA 5 models, as we can see the wireframes in the leak. The gas station sign that we see in the leaks is very similar to this one, but instead of gas mart it has gas stop, it also has a quick shop sign, which is based on the food mart, and it has a thrift store sign, which just looks like it's made in Microsoft Paint. So all of these signs and brands seem to be just placeholders. So this is the quick shop, this is the thrift store, and this is a third unknown store. We can also see this poster at the window of the quick shop, which suggests student activity in PORT GELLHORN. Then we cross the road north to this bingo hall. In real life, it's based on this Mr. Bingo. Additionally, the same parking lot is located north of the bingo hall in game and in real life. And then there's a Ferris wheel on the side of the parking lot, which is based on one from the Central Panhandle Fair. There isn't much else to say about the location itself apart from the events we have. Some events take place here, like an overdose event at the Ferris wheel, a single car hangout at the parking lot, and an easy score, so a robbery at the bingo hall, which can also be a cop trap version. And if you didn't know, we saw lists of events in the leaks, of which there were about 1,300. But many of those are labeled as NIE, which means non-interactive event. But we can interpret the names of the events and make conclusions from them, like their location and content. And PORT GELLHORN has about 100 labeled events, which have the name PORT GELLHORN, or PG, or PGH. Then here are some fuck-ass houses, which we know fuck all about. And then, a bit more to the left, here we have Seclusion Bay, which is located here at this peninsula. Rockstar has added a building next to the real Seclusion Bay building. They have kept the Seclusion building itself there, and the small paths along the trees which have been used by motocross bikes and ATVs in real life and probably in game too. This building is this old gas station, and all of these buildings are from this marina. So all of these buildings are on the same road. Additionally, they have taken these buildings from the same road and put them up here, where the pawn shop is from trailer 1, but more about that later. Let's get back to the buildings we were just talking about. And right next to the buildings there's a railroad, which goes from north side of the racetrack along the coast, up north to this train station seen in this postcard, and then it keeps going to the northern part of PORT GELLHORN. But yes, this train track was seen in the leaks from the AI vote editor map, and it's really out of place in the game as there isn't a train track there in real life. And this road here seems to be an imaginary road, like I talked about with the Sebring racetrack roads. But I think that's the last one of the imaginary roads. Then we move here to the next part of town. This building is based on this building in real life, this building is based on this one, and this pawn shop is in the game. A leak actually takes place in the pawn shop and just outside the door. And in the leak on the left we can see this fence and this Burger King. So the Burger King is placed here in the game. And these two houses are based on these two houses in real life, which in real life are just behind the Burger King. This Burger King might be any kind of fast food restaurant, as one Burger King that we know of has been transformed into a taco bomb in-game. And in the leak here, which happens in the pawn shop, we can see Jason using the GTA 6 version of the Eagle Eye, which makes valuables glow. And this pawn shop seems to be a robbery target, as there are several jewelry and valuable items in the store, and even a door which you can open if you know the passcode to it. Then I want to talk about this intersection, as it's completely identical to its real-life counterpart, which is this intersection in Panama City. The only thing that's different is the buildings around the intersection, and not even all of the buildings are different, as this building is the exact same too, and this forest above it. In the leaks, it appears they haven't placed the foliage yet, but that was back in 2022, so they probably have finished it now. Then, right here at the intersection, there's this sign, which tells us if we follow this road, we'll be going along the State Road 2 towards Bocamar Bridge and Chalktown. And Bocamar Bridge is based on Sunshine Skyway Bridge in Tampa, and in my opinion, Chalktown is based on St. Petersburg, but more about that later. Then, right here, on the both sides of this road, there are signs that indicate that this road is the I-404, the same interstate highway which we see in Vice City in trailer 1. And that road keeps going north and bends to the west eventually, but more about that later too. Then, on the east side of the highway, we have the Parker City Hall and police station. We can see these buildings relatively well in the leaks. There is a tall sign above the compound which says police, which indicates that there is a police station there, like in real life. Additionally, in-game, we can see glitching around these doors, which likely means that they can be opened, and they have the EMS services in them. So, this is going to be the main police station and fire station of the southern PORT GELLHORN area. This police station is also presumably mentioned in the event lists, but we really can't be sure because PORT GELLHORN might have several police stations. Then, the Hanks Waffles robbery league had PORT GELLHORN police cars, but they were just reskinned GTA 5 police cars. Fortunately, this has changed for trailer 2, as we can see a single PORT GELLHORN police car in trailer 2, which is this one, and it seems to have same design as Parker City Police with its white design. So, at least in the southern part of PORT GELLHORN, the police cars will be white with blue strips. And keep in mind, while I'm talking about Parker City, it's basically part of Panama City, as cities work weird in the Americas. But basically, Parker City is part of Panama City. But back to the map itself. On the right of the city hall, there are some small paths up the small hill on the right. And then of course forests, which we can kinda see in this screenshot, as it's facing south from Mount Calagan National Park. And this should be the bluff east of the southern side of PORT GELLHORN. Then, if we move a bit back up north, this building is the Goodwill Career Training Center in real life. This building probably has an interior, as it has so many different ambient audio zones in it on the leaked AI World Editor map. Then right here is this building, which too has an interior, and we can actually see in one of the trailer 2 scenes, right here at the end of this clip. Hell yeah, we are actually moving into trailer scene instead of just looking at the leaks, which I cannot show on YouTube. You guys get to look at actual footage from the game. And then in the same scene, these two buildings in real life are the same ones as these in the game. And again, pretty much it's an exact match. And the trailer 2 scene takes place itself here on this road. And here on the right of the scene we can see some elevation. As it appears the billboards, trees and everything else seem to be at higher elevation than we are currently. So the I-404 runs higher than the US State Road 2, which is the same road that Bokamar Bridge is on. And if we go back to the higher elevation, we can first find these two buildings, which are these ones in real life. The bigger building seems to have two interiors at these storefronts. Then a bit north of these buildings is this pawn shop, which can be seen in trailer 1 in this drift scene. And then this fast food restaurant is based on this building in real life. And all of these buildings are next to each other in real life. So it for sure is them. Funnily enough, they are actually next to these buildings in real life. So they have just scouted this road and taken this part into this part of PORT GELLHORN, and then these buildings from around those buildings into this area. So anything kinda coastal to the coast, and anything that's not directly connected to the coast is up here. Anyways, let's dissect the trailer 1 scene. So this is the pawn shop. Everything is same to real life, even this structure next to it. I have seen people saying that they see hundreds of these buildings while they go to work. So it could be anywhere, No, fuck you, it's this one. And of course the pawn shop has an interior, as you can see into it. And the door is open. And next to the pawn shop we have this smokestack and ruined building. We are not yet completely sure what this is based on. However, the best match for the smokestack is the smokestack in Florida State University in Tallahassee. However, we are almost completely unsure about that. It's the furthest match we have of anything in the game ever, but it's an option. You can also see the R and N on the smokestack, which is the end of PORT GELLHORN. So the smokestack has PORT GELLHORN written on it, and we can see it in the leaks. And the smokestack and the mill is located here. We think that it has moved slightly since the leaks to make space for the cell tower behind it. We can also see the cell tower from the chase scene of trailer 2, and that cell tower is located here. We don't know where these silos are, but somewhere around here in game. We already talked about this building, and here on the back you can see a substation. We can also see a part of it in the AI Water leak from above, and also a very small part of it in this scene. The substation is located here, and this cell tower is located within it, or at least that's what it looks like. We are still not completely sure about the location of that cell tower. And then on the other side of the road we can see these buildings, which are based on these buildings in real life. And this warehouse is enterable, confirmed from the leaks. And this VHS shoes brand is based on some fuck-ass brand from England, so I don't fucking know. And in this scene we can actually see two large pylons right here. We can actually see three similar large pylons in the leaks, which all go through PORT GELLHORN. One should be around here, a second here, and a third here. The third one can be seen here in trailer 2, so we know where the scene takes place. And then these two seen in the drift scene are somewhere around here. So we have 5 pylons going through PORT GELLHORN in a curving line from south to east. It's kind of weird that it seems like they don't connect with the substation in PORT GELLHORN. They just go through the city. They might be connected to the PORT GELLHORN power station somehow, which is mentioned in the event list, but no idea. Then let's move on. These buildings, no fucking idea. And then this area seems to be based on the boat ramp loop from northern Panama City, as this boat launch area is the same, and the loop is kinda similar. But it's kinda weird, as in-game it seems like the area is just mud instead of water. So the water level has gone down at some point. We can see the mud here in the PORT GELLHORN postcard, and this area is kind of a mystery as we only see it from the top-down map. Then let's rewind back to this scene. So these buildings on the right we already talked about, and these two cell towers are the same ones we can see in this drift scene of trailer 1. It's weird that there are two cell towers so close to each other. One might be a radio tower, that would make sense. And this circle sign should be around here, as we can also see it from the gas station leak. And we can see one of the large pylons I was talking about here. This is the same one we can see in this scene too. So it's the middle one I mentioned of the 5. Then this left side of the image is very interesting, as here we can see the Pocamar Bridge, which is based on the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. And yes, we are 100% sure it's the same bridge. So it is the Sunshine Skyway Bridge from Tampa, or actually from St. Petersburg, but near Tampa metropolitan area. We are still not sure where the bridge starts or ends, but it should start somewhere around here and end somewhere around here on the other side of the bay. Then if we keep looking at this scene, we can notice that this orange ball and sign are the same ones as in this postcard. And this building here is the same one as this church here. And of course, these railway lights are the exact same ones as these ones. And we can barely see this train station here. So, as this scene takes place right here, this postcard must take place right here, right above the choose sign. So this is the full frame used in the postcard, and we have been ridiculously bad at identifying these things in this scene. From the right side of the road, we have only identified this church in real life, which is this church, which is in Panama City close to other scouted locations. And then this train station, which is from Waldo, Central Florida. This makes sense, as Panama City does not have a commercial railroad station, so they have moved one they have scouted from somewhere else. Waldo is also close to Sebring Raceway in real life, so they 100% have been there. And this building here is Rander's RB Shack, which is behind the train station in real life too. And then anything else from the left side of the railroad we haven't identified. Like fuck all, nada, none. Not this construction site, not this salvage yard, or this football field, or even this water tower. But this is kinda what it should look like on the map. And yes, I have drawn this by myself. I know it doesn't look good, but we have to live with it now, because Dubso is yet to update his part of the map onto his map. So this area marked on Dubso's map is actually fake and not real. We can see this small inlet here, and there's a bridge going over it. And this small island is this one. And no, it's not a rectangle. And this area does have some elements relating to it, such as a multi-car hangout at the soccer field, probably on this parking lot. And then non-described events at the construction site and the train station. And now, if we keep moving up in the image, we can notice that there is a railroad bridge, which is a drawbridge too. The best match we have for it is in Jacksonville, which I doubt is the real inspiration. Then, up here, behind the water tower, we can see a peninsula or a barrier island, which is almost just like on Dubso's map. So we predicted pretty well with the port. And then of course there is the port, which is basically just a mirror version of the Tampa City port, as there are 3 port cranes and the pier is angled in a similar fashion. And of course there is a ship docked at the port. And behind the port we can see some street lights, which I assume are part of a highway, which I think could be the 404 or something else. So the port is west of the railway. And then right of the railway we have a fucking, I don't fucking know. It looks like an oil refinery, but there's none in Florida or Georgia. So it might be from some other state along the Gulf, but this facility hasn't been identified yet. There is a ship docked at the facility though, so that could give us some hints. But this facility on the right of it is the Panama City paper mill, which has already been shut down in real life. We can see the main building and the smokestacks on both sides of it. It appears Rockstar has added or extended some of the smokestacks there are, as there isn't this many or this tall in real life. And then what would be just right of this image is the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, and this road here should lead up to the bridge, so it probably does an S-turn of some kind, or there is an interchange just after this image on the right, which then leads up to the bridge and Chalktown on the other side. We really need to talk about the lights, because we don't know where this building is in real life, so we cannot access it or get more details from it. However, we know where it's in game, so we know where to go as soon as the game launches. As on the background here, we can see the water tower, which we also saw here in this scene. And we can see some of the train lights here. So it places this screenshot around here. We think this building might be based on this building or this building in Tampa, but we are not definitive about it. There are 2 billboards for this location. One on the background of this trailer shot, so this scene takes place in PORT GELLHORN, and one located here, which we can see in the leaks. Additionally, this location is mentioned in the leaked event list. If we move north from this location, we end up at the location for this trailer 2 scene. We know the location of this scene because of this pylon, as we can see it from the Hank's Waffles leak and the gas station leak south, so we can triangulate the location of the pylon, and this scene takes place next to the pylon, so here. Additionally, Jason and Lucia are about to cross the I-404 because of this sign. The east means that it will eventually end up facing east, which it does south of PORT GELLHORN. And west, of course, it will head west at some point, which is probably right after Hank's Waffles here, and then turn towards the industrial center and the port. Then, this mini-mall is based on the Callaway Village Square in Panama City. The building is shaped the exact same way. There's an Uncle Jack's liquor store at this mini-mall, and this is the second one we know of in PORT GELLHORN, as there is one somewhere around here from trailer 1. The sign for the mini-mall is basically the same one too. And here on the left we have the PORT GELLHORN Roadhouse, of which we can only see the sign. This billboard on the background here says Real One, and this is another Welcome to PORT GELLHORN sign, and the logo again is based on the Panama City logo. And then if we take a right from this scene, we'll be heading towards the Springfield Community Church, and the church has this very interesting overpass design, which we clearly can see in the leaks, and the church tower and the side buildings are also identifiable, so it's not a highway overpass as many seem to think. Then from the church there's a downhill towards north. On the west side of the road we have this building and this building, and on the right side we have a hill and forests. Then we have this car wash, which is based on this real life car wash, and this car wash is actually right next to the mini mall we just talked about, in real life of course. This car wash works as a money laundering business, and yes, it has an interior. Then on the east side of the road we have the Easy Inn motel, which is based on this real life motel, which is actually on the other side of Panama City compared to the car wash. And of course the motel does have interiors, as we saw into them in the leaks. And then of course here we have the Schlott Construction Company. The building in real life is located in Miami, however it has been moved to PORT GELLHORN. We actually saw Schlott Construction Company vehicles in trailer 2, so they may actually play a major part in the story. And of course the building has openable doors too. And then we have Hank's Waffles. The building itself is based on this one in Panama City Beach, but the interior is based on just a random waffle house. And in the leaks, Jason and Lucia rob it, and actually probably everyone has seen that leak. Then there are some buildings here, then a fuel storage here, some buildings down here. This water tower is based on this one in Panama City. Yes, it has the text on it. And of course here we can also see the port and the bridge. And then north of Hank's Waffles we can see a bridge turning to the right, which is not the same road as the I-404. And in this direction we can see at least one smokestack. So the ones we see in the postcard shot are not the only smokestacks we see in PORT GELLHORN. And then we have the robbery from trailer 1. This scene takes place here, as we can see the hill on the background. And that's the known parts of southern and northern PORT GELLHORN, but there's much more we know of. This motel, even though it's outside the Welcome to PORT GELLHORN signs, appears to be part of PORT GELLHORN as it's in the screenshots, under the folder PORT GELLHORN. The Starlet motel appears to be mainly based on the Economy Inn in Lothy, which unfortunately burnt down. It is an amalgamation of other motels too, but we haven't been able to identify those. It's located here on the map, and it's at over 40 meters elevation from the sea level, so about 25 meters higher than the Hank's Waffles. It is along a highway leading to PORT GELLHORN, and opposite to the motel there is the Alpha gas station and a taco bomb. These buildings are based on these buildings in real life, and this Gator gas station is the same one as this Alpha gas station. We actually identified these just before trailer 2 came. This motel appears to be an extremely important location for the story, as it's showcased several times in both trailers and the leaks, and it's also shown several times in the screenshots. So that's all of PORT GELLHORN we have seen so far. But that definitely is not all. But there is still much more to talk about even in this area. For example, we can estimate what kind of buildings this area has. As we can see residential homes here and here, we can assume that anything that is not along a main road is basically full of homes. So anything along these roads or these connecting roads will be full of houses. And I would think we will have 3 diagonal roads at this point in PORT GELLHORN, even though we can confirm only 2 of them. So one of these roads flows will keep going north. Then there are the events, of which there are about 150 shown to us. And of course there will be more when the game releases. I'm just gonna list some interesting ones we have, because if I list all of them that's gonna take too long. There are events for NPCs fishing on the coast or at a canal. There is a basketball field in PORT GELLHORN, and there also is a trailer park which we haven't seen yet. A car wash somewhere, and there are several mentions of neighborhoods. Then a PORT GELLHORN car fence, so presumably a person who can buy your cars that you have stolen. Then there's a motel called La Cascara. There is a clinic of some kind in PORT GELLHORN and a power station, which might be this one, but we cannot be sure. And also a wastewater plant, which we haven't seen yet. Then PORT GELLHORN beach and a bonfire on the beach, and a PORT GELLHORN beach at a peninsula, which might be one of the peninsulas in this image. Then also a bowling alley. If I had to guess, it's this bowling alley from Panama City. Then PORT GELLHORN has several events of overdosed NPCs. Then a mention of fishing store, a dock, and a river mouth. The dock probably isn't the same one as the big port, but it might be this one. Then there are these spiritual journey missions, of which there are 4. Then several trickshot events, and as they aren't non-interactive events, seems like we are the ones doing the trick shots. There are 4 events about tourists, and then finally, and unfortunately, dead animals, which are skunks, possums, and raccoons. Then of course there are these screenshots, which don't have much in terms of mapping, but suggest that much of what we do in PORT GELLHORN is related to drugs. And then there's this image, in which we can see the mud girl from trailer 1. So it's possible that the Trilby Mud Club is in PORT GELLHORN. However, the artwork for Ambrosia has a monster truck, which might mean that the Mud Club itself is in Ambrosia, but the people from there actually hang out in PORT GELLHORN. And here on the background of the image, we can see a bridge, which could be basically anything. Then let's talk a bit more speculative. So take anything I say with a grain of salt now. So we still kinda have this area left in PORT GELLHORN. There is a large bridge leading there, a highway from the port, and another highway from the east. So I would assume that this area has high concentration of people. And the composition of PORT GELLHORN would be extremely weird without a downtown. So what could this downtown be based on? Either it's Panama City, which does have tall buildings, but not really a downtown. They could bring some buildings from the Panama City beach, but those are mostly hotels. Then of course, it could be Tampa, but that might be too big. And then we have St. Petersburg, which actually would make sense, as Yorktown should be here. And Yorktown and St. Petersburg are kinda the same thing, because town and burg mean the same thing, and Peter means rock, so then you have York and rock, which is kinda weird, but it kinda matches. So I think this area has a downtown of some kind. And I have heard some whispers, take this with a grain of salt, that PORT GELLHORN is much bigger than we know of. I hope I didn't miss too much. Oh wait, have I even mentioned that PORT GELLHORN is in Kelly County? Or at least we think that is. Okay, I think that's everything I know about PORT GELLHORN. And we fit it in a bit over 30 minutes. And this is a very information-packed video, as I heard that someone made a 20-minute video about the PORT GELLHORN screenshots, which is insane. What the fuck do you even talk about? Reflections and lighting. I have no idea who I am insulting right now, because I haven't watched YouTube in a while, because I have been making these videos. But well, if someone has talked about PORT GELLHORN for a longer time than I have, they are wasting your time. Thank you for watching. Please comment if I missed some crucial info. Leave a like, and of course subscribe if you want to see similar deep dive videos. The future videos will probably be shorter, as I will take smaller areas and divide Vice City into neighborhoods. So, thank you.